Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock. This is the early rundown. Top stories today. Scientists say new cases of COVID in the UK could reach 250,000 a day in the coming weeks, putting even more strain on the NHS.
We could see faster decreases in those numbers of hospitalisations and deaths if we were to tighten those lockdown measures.
Showing the strain, almost half of intensive care staff working through the pandemic are likely to have serious mental health issues. As senior members of his own party turn against him and a second impeachment vote seems inevitable, Donald Trump turns on his critics.
As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for.
Public apology for the thousands of victims. Ireland's Prime Minister will address Parliament on what he calls the shameful scandal in mother and baby homes. And it's more than a family affair. Italy's custom-built courthouse prepares for the start of the biggest mafia trial for decades, with 350 defendants. Well, thanks for joining us this morning. The government has been warned that new cases of COVID in the UK could reach 250,000 a day in the coming weeks, and the pressure on the NHS won't start to reduce until March. Scientists say that because of the 3-week time lag it takes for the vaccine to take effect, the death rate from COVID is unlikely to come down until later in February. The government's being urged to introduce tougher restrictions to try to control the spread of the new variant, but is hoping the rapid rollout of the vaccine could help ease the pressure on the health service sooner. Our chief political correspondent, John Craig, reports.
Hiya. Just making sure people have got masks on. Can you pop your masks on when you go on the bus for us, please? Thank you.
Tougher enforcement of England's lockdown rules in Birmingham, after police chiefs said people who ignore them are increasingly likely to face fines. And on the south coast in Sussex, officers are telling people not to exercise for more than 30 minutes. The enforcement crackdown follows a warning from government scientific advisors of a massive rise in COVID infections over the coming weeks.
Hi there.
Sky News has learned the scientists have told Boris Johnson new cases could be running at 250,000 a day, and pressure on the NHS won't start easing until March. Vaccines are unlikely to have an impact in January, according to the scientists, because of a 3-week time lag before they take effect.
We could see faster decreases in those numbers of hospitalisations and deaths if we were to tighten those lockdown measures and particularly focus on whether all of the people who are currently going into work really need to be going into work.
Today, appearing before the liaison committee of senior MPs, the Prime Minister will be questioned on the scientific advice, progress on vaccines and calls for tougher lockdown measures. 9 days into England's third lockdown, the Home Secretary Priti Patel says the current rules are tough enough. A former Labour Home Secretary also rejects tougher rules, but says police need better guidance.
I'd make sure that the police had very, very clear guidelines so that there wasn't a mistake by constables either overdoing it, as they did in Derbyshire, or failing to recognise when there's a major challenge.
Hello, girls. You all right? Are you from the same household?
But given the grim warning from government scientists, tougher lockdown rules could be on the way, and soon. John Craig, Sky News.
Well, let's have a look at the latest coronavirus figures. And 45,533 new infections have been recorded and 1,243 deaths, the second highest daily figure since the pandemic began. The total number of people who've died with COVID-19 is 83,203. More than 2.4 million people in the UK have received a first dose of a vaccine and more than 400,000 have had their second injection. Coming up, we'll be talking to the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, about the spiralling coronavirus numbers just after 7 o'clock this morning. A long-awaited mafia trial, which could last 2 years, begins in Italy later on today. It's one of the largest cases to ever target organised crime in the country, with more than 350 suspected members of the 'Ndrangheta mafia on trial. They're accused of charges including murder, extortion and drug trafficking. A specially converted courtroom has been created to make space for the defendants, 700 lawyers and 1,000 witnesses. The chief prosecutor, Nicola Gratteri, who's been living under police protection for decades, told Sky News he refused to be intimidated.
You need to have broad shoulders and nerves of steel. You need to stay calm and not get caught up in emotion or tension. You need to rationalise every emotion because the goal is important and fundamental.
Now, Donald Trump may have escaped the shame of being forced out of office through the